The original members of the fabulous Beach Boys came to you tonight with a gala concert, Mr. Dave Marks.
Told, I grew up right across the street from the airport here, next to the Wilson brothers, Brian, Carl, and Dennis, and we became the Beach Boys. Some of you might have seen some of those albums with my picture on it, and as you can see, I haven't changed a bit. I'm still that little 14-year-old in my mind and heart. And so what we're trying to do is keep the musical legacy alive and keep Hawthorne in the minds of people as the place where the Beach Boys were born. And like my street, Cornbloom down here, was on the border at the time of Inglewood and Hawthorne, so I had to go to Morningside. And I didn't get to be with Principal Sellers, unfortunately. We had a couple different names back then. After the Pendleton shirt, which was adopted by the Surfers to wear as their garb, official garb, Brian had the clever idea to call the band the Pendletones. For 5 minutes that lasted. See, I was about 10 years old in 1958. I got my first guitar. Norb mentioned John Moss, who lived on Inglewood Avenue down a mile or so from us. And I saw him and his sister performing at the Hermosa Biltmore. I don't know if any of you remember that, the big hotel on the beach in Hermosa. Johnny and his sister were performing there. He was about 14 at the time, and his sister was maybe 16 or so. And I saw that guitar that he had, a Fender Stratocaster. So I just pestered my mom to get me one of those, and what she ended up getting me was a Sears Silvertone acoustic, which I loved. And so I brought it over to Johnny's house, and he taught me how to play some chords. And finally, I got his old carving guitar, which was, they were being made in some guy's garage in Covina, but now they're one of the biggest manufacturers of guitars. So I was excited to get that electric guitar, and I told Carl Wilson about Johnny, and he went over there and learned some guitar chords as well. And we started playing the electric guitars, and Brian and Al were kind of headed down the Kingston Trio road, the folky kind of sound. But when Brian heard us playing the electric, we were doing the, sort of the Chuck Berry feel. He loved it, and he was intrigued by it, and that's how our sound was born. It was Brian's beautiful harmonies that he got from the Four Freshmen with Carl and my garage electric guitar. You know, we were playing surf songs and stuff, and so that was the marriage that signified our Beach Boys sound. We played together from 1959. We were playing guitars and Brian was playing piano. And the Beach Boys band actually was born in 1961. That's when we became the official Beach Boys. And I played on their first 5 albums. And the little story I was telling, we played together long before the Beach Boys band was conceived of. We were learning guitars together, and Brian was learning how to arrange from Fred at Hawthorne High. And so the band took off and became a national hit in 1962. So I was there for a couple of years, long enough to jam in 4 albums worth of music. And so we toured the country a couple of times, and then I went off on my own. With my own little surf band. We were signed to A&M. It was called Dave and the Marksmen, and we were the first band on A&M Records. So we had a little local airplay and a little, hit up and down the coast, and so our band toured up and down the coast. And during our early days, Brian was pressured by Capitol Records to come up with all this material, and he did a great job. He wrote some great songs, but we had to fill up the album with some instrumentals. which was totally appropriate then because surf music was very big, the instrumental, like the Ventures and Dick Dale and that kind of thing. So we were filling our albums up with some of those instrumentals. And I don't know if that's the one that was the ice cream truck. Did it go dan 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 dan? Was that Boogie? Or no, Boogie Woody was the boogie. It was da 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 da, right? On the organ. Yeah, I remember that song. He did have another one that he wrote after the melody of the Good Humor Truck. Yeah, Dennis was very, very, he had a good heart, and he liked to he always came back to the old neighborhood and stayed in touch. Well, it was black when he got it. And here's the thing, he put a trailer hitch on it to tow a boat behind an XKE, which was insane. Yeah, there were the three Wilson brothers, their cousin Mike, and myself were the originals. Al Jardine was working with Brian before the Beach Boys, and then he came back right after the Beach Boys started making it. He came back and started recording with us. He had to take Brian's place on the road on our tours because Brian was having trouble with the traveling. He wanted to stay here and produce records and write songs, and he didn't really want to go all over the country traipsing around playing. So Al Jardine came back and took his place in the performing Beach Boys. He did Brian's high falsetto parts, singing, and played the bass, Brian's bass parts, and did a great job. But throughout the years,
where are they all now?
Dennis and Carl, unfortunately, have passed away. Brian has his own band right now, and he travels the world with, solo works. Mike Love and Bruce Johnston is an official Beach Boy, but he didn't join the band until the late 60s. And he and Mike Love have the Beach Boys trademark license, so they can go out on the road and call themselves the Beach Boys. And they still draw tons of people. Everybody loves to hear those songs. It's amazing to see the little children mouthing the words to Help Me Rhonda and the 90-year-olds dancing in the aisles. It's just incredible. I can't believe it. I think that was a fictitious girl. Brian might have known someone named Rhonda. I have no idea. Dennis or somebody, yeah. There was probably a Rhonda. But you'd be surprised at how many people come out of the woodwork and say, I'm Barbara Ann, I'm the girl that, or I'm the girl that they wrote Fun about, and there's like a million of them. Every time we play, it's just, astounding to see all that. And, we really appreciate it. It's just, we never expected it to become what it is today, back in the early days when it started. That is an interesting story. I think Principal Stelter probably knows people, you've known kids like me that weren't really into school and caused a lot of trouble, right? And that's the way I was. I was a troublemaking kid. When you're 15 years old and you have a national hit and you belong to one of the biggest bands coming up, you tend to get a little swollen in your head, right? So I had my own band. And I thought because I was a Beach Boy that I would have no trouble promoting my own band at age 15. And so I went off to try to get my own career going. And that's not as easy as it sounds all the time. I mean, we did land a big record deal with A&M Records. But you can't predict what's going to happen with bands. They either hit or they don't. And so being a strong-headed, arrogant little kid that I was at age 15, I just assumed that I was automatically going to be a hit. And it just didn't happen. But as a result, things always happen for the best. I went on to become an adequate musician. I did studio work. I learned a lot about music. I went to music school. I composed, chamber orchestra pieces. I learned how to play jazz guitar. I learned a lot of music theory. I had a lot of great experiences that I cherished and that I otherwise wouldn't have had if I had stayed in the Beach Boys. I guess if you want to say I had any regrets at all, it might be the superficial money part of it, but I managed to survive throughout the years. I didn't make as much money as the other guys did because I quit at an early stage in the band's career, the band's history. Yeah, when you're 15 years old and you have all that success, you don't really think straight. And I didn't really ever have any regrets, is what I'm trying to say, because my life has been very, very full, and I've been very lucky and blessed to have friends and a beautiful wife and a very intelligent daughter. And, my band are ex-members of Jan and Dean and backup members for the Beach Boys. They played with both. And they're the best musicians there are for this kind of music. And we do a lot of shows. Al Jardine and Dean Torrance and myself do shows across the country. This week, I think it's God Only Knows. I've been working on that one to perform. It's one of the most beautiful songs there is. But my favorite Beach Boy song changes. It's a different one every week. One of the most popular ones would be Surfin' USA. And of course, they play them all. Help Me Rhonda, Fun, 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 God Only Knows.
Top 10 by Keyers. That's what they list. I was gonna ask you if you agree with that or not.
Here we go.
Keyers 101. They listed the top.
I Get
10.
Around, Help Me Rhonda, Good Vibrations, Kokomo, Barbara Ann. Became a studio guitar player in the late 60s. I played with Leon Russell. I played with, there was a band called Delaney and Bonnie, which, yeah, Delaney and Bonnie and Friends. I was replaced by Eric Clapton in that band. And there are a lot of bands that I played with in the late 60s and early 70s. But we've been in a lot of world surveys, you know, like the MTV things, where they list the all-time top songs of all times. I think Surfer Girl and Surfin' USA have been in that list. So, you know, people tell me that they used to sing their little children to sleep to Surfer Girl, you know. Well, our guitar teacher, Johnny Moss, became one of the Walker Brothers, they had several hits. They were really big in England and in the States. And unfortunately, he passed away. And then there was Chris Montez from Hawthorne. He had a couple of hits, Let's Dance, and what was the other? Call Me. And I think he still lives around here, I'm not sure. Brian's doing great. He's very lucid and personable and very focused. He does have a little trouble with traveling still. He's not a big traveler. But once he gets out there on the road, he seems to be all right. You know, it's just, you know, a matter of getting to the airport and all that stuff. But as you said, he was having a little problems with his health there in the past, but he's mostly over that now.
And that's why he can laugh going to the bank with $1 million with the F that they gave. But the F came about because it wasn't 120 measures. It didn't change keys 5 times, and it was full of parallelism, which he's made and capitalized on, and backward progressions. And Brian knows that, and so we kind of laugh together about it. But I think the thing that comes out of all this was the fact that a good old pea-picking Hawthorne High School in a small town could offer you the classes and the training and the opportunity that you had at that time to use that. And he did.
Yeah, see, Brian didn't want to do the work, so he just pulled out a song he'd been working on to hand in, right? Sure.
Brian took the time to listen to the freshmen and to have the freshmen influence him.
Well, for Brian, I think his biggest influence was the 4 freshmen. He adopted their harmony styles for our records. And one of them just died. Yeah, Bob just died. And for Carl and myself, we were the guitarists. We really liked Chuck Berry and Dick Dale and the Ventures and those kinds of people. And that's how we tried to adopt those styles into our early music.
You know, my father was a little bit rough on me, sure. But my friends helped me too.
Their father, Murray, the Wilsons' father, Murray Wilson, was a very successful businessman, and he knew how to deal in the business world. He was very good at that. And if it wasn't for Murray Wilson, the Beach Boys probably wouldn't be on the map. He was so persistent. He was turned down by all the, you know, that's a typical story. We were turned down by all the record labels. But Murray persisted, and he just, you know, bullied his way into Capitol Records and just made them understand that we were something special. And he succeeded in doing that. He would stop people in the parking lot at the mall and just give them his car, our pictures, and he just word of mouth promoting, tremendous job in promoting us and getting us on Capitol Records. And yeah, that's a world.